Hey YouTube, what's up? This is Alex and Mark, and we're here to talk about some NBA off-season. Yay!
Yeah,
Yay! The finals just ended, and it wasn't much of a finals. It wasn't much of a matchup. The Heat got lucky in one game, but overall, the Spurs pretty much dominated the Heat. So let's get right into it. But before I get into it, I want to show you this nifty poster I made. Do they still use the word nifty?
yeah. You just used it, so you're
Okay,
you're
so
good.
I guess they still do.
Yeah, go
It took
ahead.
me about 5 hours to make. It's called
Yeah,
NBA Talk at Alex Gold 14. That's my Twitter handle, in case you didn't know. And he doesn't have Twitter since he's cooler than me. And I nicknamed him Markle Jordan.
there you go. I like that, Marco
He's
Jordan.
Michael Jordan's long lost cousin, probably
don't I?
somewhere.
Don't I wish I would actually, had some good basketball skill to me.
Oh, by the way, I'm selling this poster on eBay. Starting bid at $25 if anyone wants it.
30.
Oh, do I hear 35?
Oh my god.
Okay, let's get right to it. So, what did you think of the finals?
Um, I personally was not surprised by the outcome. I felt that San Antonio was a more well-rounded team. They play team basketball, and obviously in a team sport, the team that's able to play well together will have more success than a team that has all-star players and relies on one player or two, like the Miami Heat did. Eventually, I think LeBron James, this guy, he did all he could, but he didn't have the support around him. So I can't honestly say I quite expected it to be a 4-1 series, and I thought Miami would take at least two, but I'm not surprised at the outcome at all. I think the Spurs were just the best team in the league, and people were so quick to jump on the Miami Heat bandwagon like they are every year and anoint them as, the kings of basketball when, they had one more series to play, and that was against a team that was way better than anyone in the East. So, but good for the Spurs to have this continued success. I love seeing Tim Duncan have his success, and he's a veteran player. He's got maybe another couple years left in him, and after that, it's like the changing of the guard. You know, he came in during a time when I watched basketball when I was a kid, and he's kind of the last of those players that stuck with a team throughout their whole career. They were loyal to that team and the team to them. So you're not going to see too many more of those players anymore after players like Duncan and Kobe retire. So, but back to the finals. I'm not surprised it went down the way it did, and I'm happy that the Spurs won over the Heat. Personally,
Good points. Good points. For me, honestly, I thought the series was going to be a lot closer, even though the Heat doesn't have a great bench, and it looked like the players either quit around LeBron or just got tired and couldn't handle it anymore, and or maybe a combination of both. But the Heat didn't really have much of a bench like the Spurs. The Spurs definitely had a lot of depth. I mean, they were just a great all around team. And yeah, even though overall they were kind of an older team, they played smart. They not only played hard, but they played smart. They had the depth. And that first game of the series was crazy in San Antonio when the air conditioning went out. And yeah, I'm not going to sit here and judge LeBron for cramping, but because they were playing in like 90-degree
yeah,
temperatures. But the Spurs definitely, you could tell, they were a lot more equipped to handle any types of conditions.
yeah,
Well, as long as the arena wasn't like flooded and like
yeah,
10 feet
right,
deep of
yeah,
water.
yeah,
But you know what I mean. In
yeah.
most
I got you.
conditions.
Yeah, no, I think what it was is, um, as far as LeBron during that game one, like the Heat organization, the coaches and the training staff, you got to do a better job of not only keeping your player hydrated, but also realizing the situation that it's very hot. It's very, it's not a good condition to play in So you have to adjust minutes, here and there, and you can't rely on him too much, especially when he's going to be exhausted. Like, he is human. And although people talk about him like he's not, he is. And we saw that with game one, and then we saw that actually throughout the series. Even though a lot of games he still put up his typical points that he puts up, 30, 20 plus. They relied too much on him, and they didn't have the right pieces around him outside of his starting lineup. I mean, Ray Allen, he comes up big, throughout his career, but he's not what he was. And then Birdman, he wasn't used that much. He was kind of a shell of himself. Mario Chalmers, he was terrible.
Dwayne Wade didn't really show up.
No.
Bosch.
He had some moments, but outside of that, it was the LeBron show. But
Pretty much.
But LeBron can't take it on the whole Spurs team himself, so
He can't do it all on his own.
Oh no, not that.
He's no Superman. Check out my video, shameless plug here. It's a parody of the theme song Scrubs, and it's about LeBron James not being a Superman, which is true because you can't win 1-on-5. Yeah, he had 4 players around him, but they either gave up or just didn't perform. So one guy, no matter how great they are, you're going to lose 100 times out of 100 if it's 5-on-1.
Yeah. So they got a lot to think about going into this offseason, which is obviously one of the biggest topics, is what do the big three do? As of right now, all three of them, they have player options where they could opt out this summer and test free agency, see whether teams are interested. They could re-sign with Miami. If they don't opt out, all three of them are owed over $20 million.
Wow.
That's going to take up $60+ million of the Miami Heat's cap, and they do have other players that are actual free agents, and that they might let go or re-sign. We'll get into that in a little bit. But the big question is, what do these 3 major players of the Miami Heat do? I have my feelings what they're going to do, but what do you think?
I don't know. I think that they may all just give up the game of basketball and just go to Vegas and call it a career. I'm just kidding.
Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice?
No, but
stick it to the Heat fans.
No, but seriously, so you're saying there's $60 million between those 3 players?
Between the
if
two,
they all opt out.
Between the 3 players, if they opt out, the team doesn't have to pay them $20 million each.
So that's
for
$60
the
million
next
overall.
year. So yeah,
That's a
60
hell of a lot of money. I mean, the Heat could look to they could try to recruit other big name players possibly, but at the same time, these other big name players may not necessarily want to go to the Heat right now just because, yes, they made it to the finals, which is great. They've made it to the finals 4 years in a row. There's no disputing that they're a great team, but some big name players may be a little reluctant to go to the team if all these 3 guys opt out because they're in rebuilding mode.
Now, just because they opt out, though, here's what I'm going to help you with. Just because they opt out doesn't mean that they go to another team. They could come back to Miami, take a different deal, maybe
that's
less
true.
money, so everyone is together still, or depending what each individual player wants to do, one of them could go look for max contract somewhere. And right now, I don't think Miami's in that, can really afford to do that, have all 3 of them opt out and then sign all 3 of them for another max contract for another 4 or 5 years. They just don't have that flexibility. I think what I feel will ultimately happen is they're all going to stay because they've had this success. They've been to the finals 4 straight times, and they won 2 out of 4, which a lot of teams,
amazing.
It is amazing. Give them credit. But what I think, even though I think all three of them are going to stay, I think what's going to happen is there's going to be some restructuring. So perhaps Dwayne Wade, he's not what he once was, and I think he knows that. So
Still has gas left in the tank, though.
he still has gas left in the tank, but his role is going to be a lot smaller going forward. I think he opts out, but just to restructure the contract to make it a little bit more feasible for Miami. I think Bosch keeps it where he's at, and LeBron obviously keeps it where he's at. I mean, all three of them might get tempted to go to other teams. Houston's in the mix for LeBron. They're always kind of been pushing. Cleveland, of course. I don't think he's ever stepping foot there. Sorry, Cavaliers fans, if there's any of you out there. But, you're not
I used to be.
back.
No, not really.
Yeah, I was going to say. And then a lot of people also talked about LeBron and the Lakers, which would be interesting because you have two of the top players in the league on one team, and you got one player kind of moving out, transitioning out in the next couple of years in Kobe, and you could see something where he's passing the torch to LeBron. That's certainly possible. I don't think it's probable, though.
I don't think that's going to happen just because the Lakers are investing so much money in Kobe already.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll have the money for LeBron. And I think, back to your question earlier, in all honesty, I think LeBron's going to go to a different team. I don't know what team he's going to go to, but I think he's going to leave the Heat. And my question is this. If one of the players of the big three, between Heat, Bosch, and Wade, if one of those guys leave, would the other guys follow suit, do you think? Or would the two other guys stay?
I think it depends who leaves. I think if Dwayne Wade leaves, I think LeBron and Bosch stay. Because they see that, okay, Wade still wants to get paid. He still wants to be a premier player. They know that he might not be that in Miami. His role is completely diminished, throughout this last season. He barely played this past season because they want to save him for the playoffs. And that worked in the Eastern Conference because the Eastern Conference wasn't as good this year. But once they faced the Spurs, that's when they needed someone outside of LeBron. That's when Wade, if he was healthy, could put up 20, 30 points, and then between them they'll have 60, 70, and all the rest only have to put up a few points just to make up the difference. They're missing out on a big-time player, a big-time star, along with LeBron if Wade leaves, but he's not what he once was. So, but I think, going back to what you're asking, LeBron stays if Wade leaves. But if LeBron leaves, that changes the game wholeheartedly. Like, if he leaves, then I think all three of them go somewhere. Maybe Bosch follows LeBron or follows Wade, but
basically they'll be singing the song "Should I Stay or Should I Go Now?"
That's what a lot of the free agents are thinking now.
Yeah, it would be interesting. But I just got this feeling that LeBron's going to leave for some reason.
It's
I don't
certainly
know.
possible. It would certainly shake things up and put those Heat fans back in their place because now you're going to see what it's like to really start building from the bottom, kind of scratching and clawing your way back to having some sort of success. This opportunity of having three of the best players in the league fall into your lap and then give you 2 championships, cherish it. Because if they all leave, you're not seeing a championship for a long time.
Who do you think's the most likely to leave out of the three? Wade?
I think Wade, because LeBron likes it in Miami. He's got a good situation. He's the face of the franchise. Bosch, I think he likes his role as not your typical big guy.